Good day, students. I'm back. It's your IELTS teacher, Jack, and another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. Okay, take a breath, relax. We have an easy topic today. The last two topics have been really challenging, I think. I've had a few comments that, yeah, those were some of the harder topics that we've covered. But today we're talking about home. And if you want to learn some fantastic vocabulary to talk about home, some vocabulary and expressions, please go to www.jax-english.com to get your free handout, which has 10 vocabulary expressions and today's questions. So home, it's an easy one, right? We can all talk about our home, but what kind of home do you live in? I'm going to give you, I think, 9 or 10 types of homes now, give you a little bit of introduction so that you can tell me below in the comments, if you're on YouTube, which type of home you live in. So the first type of home is an apartment. Of course, in England, we call it a flat, and this is what I live in now. I live in a flat in Seoul. Next is a bungalow, and this is quite common in England. A bungalow is a one-story house, so it doesn't have 2 floors. It only has the 1 floor, and this is what my parents live in England, a bungalow. Next is an equally typical home in England, and that's a detached house. A detached house, firstly, of course, a house is the kind of stereotypical house. 2 floors, the door, the 4 windows, that kind of thing. But a detached house is one that has no connection to another house. It stands alone. However, if you are connected to another house, then it's a semi-detached. If you're connected to houses on both sides, you live in a terraced house. Of course, terraced houses, the issue you face is noisy neighbors, right? It depends on the quality of your walls, but that's normally the problem. The next one is a cottage. A cottage is really common in the English countryside. This one is older, it's historical, it's normally made of stone, and the roof is thatched, meaning it's made of dried grass or some kind of dried grass. That's of course beautiful. Some way it's lovely to stay in, but can have issues with damp and cold. Next is a farmhouse, so similar idea, but this of course it's in a farm. But what I really want to talk about is a mansion. A mansion is a huge house. Do any of you live in a mansion? If you do, you're very lucky, and I would love to live in a mansion. This is, of course, a huge house with many, many rooms, and of course, you would have to be rich to live in a mansion. Finally, on the other end of the scale is a mobile home. A mobile home is kind of a rectangular home. It's transported to normally a large field with many mobile homes, but they remain there permanently. And yeah, they tend to be less expensive, used as accommodation or used for travel accommodation. You know, you can just rent it out for small periods of time. So I think that covers most types of accommodation. Let me know in the comments below where you live. I'd love to know. Or if I've forgotten something, maybe you live in something totally different to the list I mentioned. Anyway, let's do some IELTS. Question 1. What kind of accommodation do you live in? I live in a flat. The building itself is 9 stories. I live on the 8th, and my flat is not very big. I think it's a typical size in Korea, and I'm very happy living there. Next question. Is there anything about your house you would like to change? Yeah, for sure. I would love to have a bigger kitchen. I love cooking, and the kitchen is definitely my favorite room in the house. So I'd really like it to be huge. actually, so I can store all of my kitchen equipment and enjoy cooking more. Okay, well, I think we'll just go straight on to part 2. 2 minutes on the clock. Oh, this looks fun. Okay, describe the ideal home that you would like to live in. Oh, I'm going to have fun with this. I definitely have an ideal home. Okay, 2 minutes on the clock. Time starts now. I'd like to tell you about my ideal home, which would be a large country house set in the countryside. When I was young, I used to live in a town with my parents, of course, and we lived in a very typical townhouse with a small garden. It was a lovely place, but later my parents moved to the countryside to a much bigger place, particularly with a bigger garden. And although they don't live there now, it was such a good memory. It was such a nice place where I had so many memories. And it made me realize how much I like that style of house. So let me tell you a little more about my ideal home. My ideal home would be in the countryside, not too isolated, but it would be near a community. It would be very spacious with a huge garden because I would like to do gardening. I'd like to grow vegetables and fruit for my cooking. That, of course, connects to my kitchen, which should be a huge kitchen. Plenty of room for doing anything I want to do in there. And then the overall look of the interior of the house, I guess, would be rustic because it's in the countryside. I don't particularly like minimalistic style. I do like quite a few items of furniture and things like that. And then a little bit of modern as well. A nice big bedroom, of course, with a huge king-size bed. For me personally, the most important thing is the kitchen and garden. I think these two connect to each other and allow me to do the type of cooking that I want to do. In the future, of course, I really hope to live in my ideal home. I don't know if it's possible. There you go. Okay, so very easy for me to talk about. It's something I do think about. I don't know about you. Do you think about your ideal home? I like to dream, of course. So let's do some part 3s. Firstly, what options are available to young couples looking for accommodation in your country? That's a really tough question nowadays because we are having difficulty in Seoul particularly, but also in Korea with providing accommodation for young couples. The reason is the price of accommodation has gone up so much. It's really hard for young couples to get on the property ladder at all, whether it's a small studio flat or anything else, to be honest. It's becoming increasingly hard. So for young couples nowadays, I think they normally rent in a place called a villa. But, from an English perspective, a villa is like a small flat. So they rent on a monthly rent, and that's how they are able to start their young life. Next question. Would you prefer to live in a flat or a house? I would definitely prefer to live in a house. A lot of people debate that in Korea, and a lot of people choose the flat because it's more secure and convenient. That's what I hear. But for me, I prefer a house because I like the privacy. I like somewhere more spacious, and I think houses do provide a more spacious environment. And I like the garden, which of course you can't really have with an apartment or a flat. With a house, you get normally a decent sized front and rear garden, most importantly the rear garden, and that should also be quite private. So yeah, definitely I would choose a house. Finally, in your country, what are the differences between rural and urban houses? Well, I'll talk about England. Urban houses tend to be in terraces, and they tend to be, of course, more cramped. Because they are in terraces, they're connected to other houses, so there are neighbor issues. Of course, there are larger townhouses, which can be wonderful. You know, like you can see something like Sherlock Holmes to get an idea of these townhouses we have. Whereas in the countryside, you can find much larger properties with more of a rustic style, using more wood, and of course, a bigger garden. That's one of the key differences, is having more space in the garden. Okay, short and sweet. I think I was quite direct with my answers today. It was an easy topic. I liked it. If I had the IELTS test, I would want to have this topic in there. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you download today's free handout at www.jax-english.com. But most of all, I hope you liked today's episode on YouTube or your podcast platform, and subscribe to join the IELTS Plus community. I'd love to hear from you and see you join the community. Have a great week this week, and I hope you study harder than ever. And I will see you next week for the next episode, which is equally easy. It will be jobs. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.